JavaScript is a scripting language and is designed to go right inside of HTML code. So we can add the scripting language or any commands that we want and can speak JavaScript right in our HTML file. So to speak HTML, we need to use the script tag. So notice that when I entered this automatically, my editor added this type attribute, and you'll see this in older code. It's no longer required to be able to add the type attribute here to tell it that you're using JavaScript. JavaScript is the default scripting language, and so you don't need to specify it. You can just use script opening and closing script tags. And now inside here, I'm going to be speaking JavaScript. So outside of the script tags, I'm speaking HTML. Inside the script tags, I'm speaking JavaScript. So I can do an alert command, and then end your sentences, any of your commands, with a semicolon. So I save that, and I can go to my browser and refresh. There's that hello prompt. Now notice that, like, here's Chrome adding its own information in those pop-up windows. And then it works right inside the web page. Also, I can do more than one. I can also do more than one alert function. I can do more than one script tag, so I can put script tags in the head section, in the body, and I can have multiple ones. These will execute in order, so they go from top to bottom, load the page as it comes. So if I go up here and I load the page, it'll pop up that question mark, hello all. Notice it did that one first. That was the first one that we had. Does the second one, goodbye, does that in order, and then it's done and displays the page. The other command that we have seen is the console command, or is the prompt command. And this one, enter your name, semicolon at the end. Remember that this one returns a value. So we can, in fact, catch it. So to use a variable in JavaScript, we just use the keyword var. Notice we don't have to define a type, so it's very a loosely typed language, and it lets us actually change the type of variables. But we just type var, and then we give it some name, right? So a variable name. Variable names can contain letters, numbers, underscore, and the $sign, but it can't start with a number, and there can't be any spaces. So single words for the variable names. And now once we have a variable, we can simply say whatever you get, store it in that variable, and we use that assignment operator to store it. So we can say enter your name, whatever they enter will be returned and then stored in this variable. I save this and reload it. I can enter a name, say OK, and that value would have been gathered from that prompt window and stored in this variable. So that gives us a way to get input from a user. Now let's talk about doing some output. So what we're doing is we're going to be outputting to the web page. And so we want to be able to access HTML elements to be able to output to them. And this is one handy thing that scripts can do, is that they can access individual HTML elements. So I'm going to create a paragraph up here. And this is just a standard paragraph, but I'm going to leave it empty because I'm going to let JavaScript fill this paragraph up. To access any HTML element with JavaScript, you need to be able to add an ID attribute. ID attributes uniquely identify each element. So you should never use the same value in an ID attribute. So if you have 6 paragraphs, you want them each to have their own individual ID. So I'm just going to call this first. So this is a paragraph and I've identified it with first. Let me do another one so you can see how to make them different. And here, this one, I'm still going to use ID, I'm just going to give it another value. So now I have 2 paragraphs that I can identify using JavaScript. And so inside here I can say, and this is how you identify them. How I get access to them is I use document, and this is talking about now the web page document dot, and the function I want to use is get element by ID, and the capitalization and everything needs to be exactly the same. So capital E, capital B, capital I, and then in here you tell it which element to get by putting in the ID attribute. So here I'm going to put first. What this will do is this will go to this document, it will get the ID that has it'll get any HTML, it'll get the HTML element that has ID set to first. All right, and then I can do a variety of things with that element once I get it. One of the things I can do is change the inner HTML. Again, capitalization is really important. JavaScript is case sensitive, so I need to do all of the inner as an underscore and HTML as an all uppercase. So what this is doing is this is going and getting that element, so it's getting this entire element. And now when we do .inner HTML, it's going to say, okay, now set the content of that element to whatever I tell it. So now I can send it any information that I want. I can say, welcome. Oops. So here's a string, and I want to just put welcome. Well, let's just do that to start with. Let's just say, okay, I want to write welcome to that paragraph. Okay, so I'm going to save this. I'm going to load this page. It's going to come up with that prompt. I enter a name, and notice how it wrote welcome to that paragraph. And so even though it was empty, when it got to this command, it went and got that empty paragraph. That's what this does. And then it said change the inner HTML. That's anything between the opening and closing tags. Change it to whatever I tell you. And here we have that welcome. Now I want to use the name, so whatever name they enter, I want to go ahead and use that. And the way that I'm going to do that is I want to do a string plus. So here's the plus operator, and when it's used with string, it does what's called concatenation. It simply connects them with each other and makes two strings into one. So now I'm going to concatenate with the variable my name. I'm going to save that, come back and refresh. Let's pick a new name. Okay, so I enter Mark for the name, and it comes up and it says welcome Mark. Now notice that there's no space added. So anything I want to add, it does exactly what I tell it. And I just said, right, welcome, exclamation point, my name. So whatever they entered, put there. If I want a space, I need to make sure and include it. Notice that the spaces here between the operator don't show up. Just whatever's inside the quotes or whatever is contained in the variable will show up. So let's go ahead and save that and see if that looks a little bit better. Carol. Okay, welcome Carol. Notice how now what we have is an interactive web page, and it's actually responding to the user. So every time I run this page, it will individually respond to whatever's entered by the user. So now it says welcome Allie because that's what was entered. And this makes it interactive. It's not the same every time, but it actually changes as the user interacts with it.